ASEAN nation. John Defterios sat down with the president at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. They discussed the nation's prospects in a shifting world and whether the Philippines can become a $500 billion economy before the end of the decade.
That, I think, is possible. But of course, we don't exist as an island separate from everybody else. Our export industry will have to respond to the global market. When anything we export, anything we manufacture, will be affected by the global economy. So long as we maintain the same conditions or they improve, then the prospects for attaining that will be there. Government is doing a lot more than just being an observer towards the whole process. We're doing everything we can. Efficiencies in running the country, opportunities for everybody, investments, massive investments in education, primarily to ensure that we do get to that point.
It's fascinating for me because when you were included in the Next 11 by Jim O'Neill of Goldman Sachs, the investment flows really started to come in, but you almost were off the radar, and you came out of the blue for us with this sort of growth rate. What has radically changed in the Philippines that we didn't see 4 or 5 years ago?
Well, my predecessor governed our country for 9.5 years, and all of the decisions were geared to keeping her in power rather than basing it from sound economic decisions. I'll give you for instance. We were importing, she allowed in her last year in office, 2.5 million metric tons of rice. And what we needed was 1.2 million metric tons of rice. And that affected the world price, so they bought it at a very high rate. Nobody was consuming it because beyond what we needed. We had to store it in warehouses we didn't own, and that's typical of so many decisions that they made to favor certain individuals, certain groups.
Can I call you a revolutionary? Because there's this reproductive bill that you got through that was sitting in Parliament or the Congress for 10 years. Nobody ever wanted to push it through because of the presence of the Catholic Church, but you did it. There was a desire for this bill.
Intensely for all the surveys tell us that our people want it. And I think I came to a very reasonable position. All we were saying was government has the duty to remind couples that they have responsibilities to all the children they're bringing in. We don't impose maximums in terms of sizes of family. We will help those who can't afford the method of family planning to be able to secure that family planning method. And it seeks to address maternal mortality rate, infant mortality rate, the inability of families to provide even the wherewithal for basic education. So the choice for me was very, very simple.
You also have reached out quite aggressively, because I live in the Middle East, in the Gulf states, to protect Filipinos with a basic cost of living salary in some of the countries, yes. And you're willing to take those people away if they don't get that salary. It's long overdue, but you've been aggressive with these Gulf states.
In the friendliest manner possible. And again, we believe that government is there to serve the people, and where our people are oppressed, that should be a primary concern of government. In fact, I tell our foreign affairs people, the main reason you're there is to protect our citizens and care for them.
What sort of potential do you have in the natural resources now? And I'm thinking of oil and gas.
Quite a lot, but I'm not sure if I should be answering this given some tensions within the waters surrounding the archipelago.
Well, in fact, it was my follow-up question. We have a new, more aggressive China in the South China Sea and the East China Sea, and the world doesn't know quite how to react. You're setting up new alliances, for example, with Japan, but what's the methodology within the UN structure? What are we suggesting here?
Well, we're both signatories to the UN Convention on the Law of the Seas. It entitles us to certain entitlements. And we're just asking China to adhere to what they have agreed to when in 1982, when they did, when UNCLOS came about, and they were signatories afterwards. They adhered to the treaty. There are various fora available to us. We've executed the steps necessary to go on to arbitration to precisely determine the rights of each party in contention.
Do you think that'll work?
There is that hope, but the alternative is to let the situation continue and persist, and perhaps to the more detriment to our country.
Final question then, is that the greatest risk to the ASEAN region, the Far East region overall? Because it doesn't seem to go away. It flares up every month, it seems.
Well, I would disagree that it just affects our region. No? 50,000 ships, I understand, transit these waters. And they have been transiting it primarily because of a certain set of rules. And those rules seem to be changing. If that changes, how much of a deterrent will it be to trade for the entire world, especially if the Asian region is supposed to be the driver for revitalization of the global economy?
The president of the Philippines talking at Davos, of course, to John Defterios.